Continuing Traveling with the Reformer by Mark Twain. Always, always, when the public interests require it, I have a brother-in-law on all boards everywhere. It saves me a world of trouble. It is a good, wide relationship. Yes, I have over 300 of them. Is the relationship never doubted by a conductor? I have never met with a case. It is the honest truth. I never have. Why didn't you let him go ahead and discharge the brakeman, in spite of your favorite policy? You know he deserved it. The major answered with something which really had a sort of distant resemblance to impatience. If you would stop and think a moment, you wouldn't ask such a question as that. Is a brakeman a dog? That nothing but dog's methods will do for him? He's a man, and has a man's fight for life. And he always has a sister or a mother or a wife and children to support. Always. There are no exceptions. When you take his living away from him, you take theirs away too. And what have they done to you? Nothing. And where is the profit in discharging an uncourteous brakeman and hiring another just like him? It's unwisdom. Don't you see that the rational thing to do is to reform the brakeman and keep him? Of course it is. Then he quoted with admiration the conduct of a certain division superintendent of the Consolidated Road in a case where a switchman of 2 years' experience was neglected once and threw a train off track and killed several people. Citizens came in a passion to urge the man's dismissal, but the superintendent said, "No, you are wrong. He has learned his lesson. He will throw no more trains off the track. He is twice as valuable as he was before. I shall keep him." We had only one more adventure on the trip. Between Hartford and Springfield, the train boy came shouting in with an armful of literature and dropped a sample into a slumbering gentleman's lap, and the man woke up with a start. He was very angry, and he and a couple friends discussed the outrage with much heat. They sent for the parlor car conductor and described the matter, and were determined to have the boy expelled from his situation. The three complainants were wealthy Holyoke merchants, and it was evident that the conductor stood in some awe of them. He tried to pacify them, and explained that the boy was not under his authority, but under that of the news companies. But he accomplished nothing. Then the major volunteered some testimony for the defense. He said, "I saw it all. You gentlemen have not meant to exaggerate the circumstances, but still, that is what you have done. The boy has done nothing more than all train boys do. If you want to get his ways softened down and his manners reformed, I am with you and ready to help, but it isn't fair to get him discharged without giving him a chance." But they were angry, and we could hear no compromise. They were well acquainted with the president of the Boston and Albany. They said, and would put everything aside next day and go up to Boston and fix that boy. The major said he would be on hand too, and would do what he could to save that boy. One of the gentlemen looked him over and said, "Apparently it is going to be a matter of who can wield the most influence with the president. Do you know Mr. Bliss personally?" The major said with composure, "Yes, he is my uncle." The effect was satisfactory. There was an awkward silence for a minute or more. Then the hedging and the half-confessions of overhaste and exaggerated resentment began, and soon everything was smooth and friendly and sociable, and it was resolved to drop the matter and leave the boy's bread and butter unmolested. It turned out as I had expected. The president of the road was not the major's uncle at all, except by adoption. And for this day and train only, we got into no episodes on the return journey. Probably it was because we took a night train and slept all the way. We left New York Saturday night by the Pennsylvania road. After breakfast the next morning, we went into the parlor car, but found it a dull place and dreary. There were but a few people in it, and nothing going on. We went into the little smoking compartment of the same car and found 3 gentlemen in there. 2 of them were grumbling over one of the rules of the road, a rule which forbade card playing on the trains on Sunday. They had started an innocent game of high-low jack and had been stopped. The major was interested. He said to the 3rd gentleman, "Did you object to the game?" "Not at all. I am a Yale professor and a religious man, but my prejudices are not extensive." Well, if it's wrong other days of the week, it's wrong Sunday. But if it's not wrong other days of the week, why is it wrong on Sunday? Then the major said to the others, "You're at perfect liberty to resume your game, gentlemen. No one here objects." One of them declined the risk, but the other one said he would like to begin again if the major would join him. So they spread an overcoat over their knees and the game proceeded. Pretty soon the parlor car conductor arrived and said brusquely, There, gentlemen. That won't do. Put up the cards. It's not allowed." The major was shuffling. He continued to shuffle and said, "By whose order is it forbidden?" "It's my order. I forbid it." The dealing began. The major asked, "Did you invent the idea?" "What idea?" "The idea of forbidding card playing on Sunday." "No, of course not." "Who did?" "The company." "Then it isn't your order after all, but the company's. Is that it?" "Yes. But you don't stop playing. I have to require you to stop playing immediately. Nothing is gained by hurry, and often much is lost. Who authorized the company to issue such an order?" "My dear sir, that is a matter of no consequence to me, and—" "But you forget that you were not the only person concerned." "It may be a matter of consequence to me. It is indeed a matter of very great importance to me. I cannot violate a legal requirement in my country without dishonoring myself. I cannot allow any man or corporation to hamper with my liberties with illegal rules, a thing which railway companies are always trying to do, without dishonoring my citizenship. So I come back to the question, by whose authority has the company issued the order?" "I don't know. It's their affair." "Mine too. I doubt if the company has any right to issue such a rule. Its road runs through several states. Do you know what state we are in now, and what its laws are in matters of this kind? Its laws do not concern me, but the company's orders do. It is my duty to stop this game, gentlemen, and it must be stopped. Possibly it must, but still there is no hurry. In hotels they post certain rules in the rooms, but they always quote passages from the state laws as authority for these requirements. I see nothing posted here of this sort. Please produce your authority and let us arrive at a decision, for you see yourself that you are marring the game. I have nothing of the kind, but I have my orders, and that is sufficient. They must be obeyed. Let us not jump to conclusions. It will be better all around to examine into the matter without heat or haste, and just where we stand before either of us makes a mistake, for the curtailing of the liberties of a citizen of the United States is a much more serious matter than you and the railroads seem to think, and it cannot be done in my person until the curtailer proves his right to do so. Now, my dear sir, will you put down those cards? All in good time, perhaps. It depends. You say this order must be obeyed. Must is a strong word. You see yourself how strong it is. A wise company would not arm you with so drastic an order as this, of course, without appointing a penalty for its infringement. Otherwise it runs the risk of being a dead letter and a thing to laugh at. What is the appointed penalty for an infringement of this law? Penalty? I've never heard of any. Unquestionably, you must be mistaken. Your company orders you to come here and rudely break up an innocent amusement, and furnishes you no way to enforce the order. Don't you see that that is nonsense? What do you do when people refuse to obey this order? Do you take the cards away from them? No. Do you put the offender off at the next station? Well, no, of course we couldn't. if he had a ticket. Do you have him up before court? The conductor was silent and apparently troubled. The major started a new deal and said, you see that you are helpless and that the company has placed you in a foolish position. You're furnished with an arrogant order, and you deliver it in a blustering way. And when you come to look into the matter, you find you haven't any way of enforcing obedience. The conductor said with chill dignity, gentlemen, you have heard the order, and my duty is ended. As to obeying it or not, you will do as you think fit. And he turned and left. But wait, the matter is not yet finished. I think you're being mistaken about your duty being ended. But if it really is, I myself have a duty to perform yet. How do you mean? Are you going to report my disobedience at headquarters in Pittsburgh? No, what good would that do? You must report me, or I will report you. Report for what? For disobeying my company's orders and not stopping this game? As a citizen, it's my duty to help the railway companies keep their services to their work. Are you in earnest? Yes, I am in earnest. I have nothing against you as a man, but I have this against you as an officer, that you have not carried out that order. And if you do not report me, I must report you, and I will. The conductor looked puzzled and was thoughtful a moment, and then he burst out with, I seem to be getting myself into a scrape. It's all a muddle. I can't make head or tail of it. It's never happened before. They always knocked under and never said a word, and so I never saw how ridiculous that stupid order with no penalty is. I don't want to report anybody, and I don't want to be reported. Why, it might do me no end of harm. Now, do go on with the game. Play the whole day if you want to, and don't let's have any more trouble about it. No, I only sat down here to establish this gentleman's rights, and he can have his place now. Before you go, won't you tell me what you think the company made this rule for? Can't you imagine an excuse for it? I mean, a rational one, an excuse that's not in its face silly, and the invention of an idiot? Why, surely I can. The reason it was made is plain enough. It's to save the feelings of the other passengers, the religious ones among them, I mean. They would not like it to have the Sabbath desecrated by card playing on the train. Well, card playing typically implies gambling, so yeah. But then again, if it's gambling, come on, it's not allowed the other days too. I just thought as much. They are willing to desecrate it themselves by traveling on Sunday, but they are not willing that by other people. By gracious, you hit it. I never thought of that before. The fact is, it is a silly rule when you come to look at it. At this point, the train conductor arrived and was going to shut down the game in a very high-handed fashion, but the parlor car conductor stopped him and took him aside to explain. Nothing more was heard of the matter. I was ill in bed 11 days in Chicago and got no glimpse of the fair, for I was obliged to return east as soon as I was able to travel. The major secured and paid for a stateroom in a sleeper the day before we left, so that I could have plenty of room and be comfortable. But when we arrived at the station, a mistake had been made, and our car had not been put on. The conductor had reserved a section for us. It was the best he could do, he said, but the major said we were not in a hurry and would wait for the car to be put on. The conductor responded with pleasant irony. It may be that you are not in a hurry, just as you say, but we are. Come, get aboard, gentlemen. Get aboard, don't keep us waiting. But the major would not get aboard himself nor allow me to do it. He wanted his car and said he must have it. This made the hurried and perspiring conductor impatient and said, It's the best we can do. We can't do impossibilities. You will take the section or go without. A mistake has been made and can't be rectified at this late hour. It's a thing that happens now and then, and there is nothing for it but to be put up with it and make the best of it. Other people do. Ah, that is just it, you see. If they had stuck to their rights and enforced them, you wouldn't be trying to trample mine underfoot in this bland way now. I haven't any disposition to give you unnecessary trouble, but it's my duty to protect the next man for this kind of imposition. So I must have my car, otherwise I'll wait in Chicago and sue the company for violating its contract. Sue the company for a thing like that? Certainly. Do you really mean that? Indeed I do. The conductor looked the major over wonderingly and said, It beats me. It's brand new. I never struck the mate to do it before, but I swear I think you'd do it. Look here. I'll send for the station master. When the station master came, he was a good deal annoyed at the major, not at the person who had made this mistake. He was rather brusque and took the same position which the conductor had taken in the beginning, but he failed to move the soft-spoken artilleryman who still insisted he must have his car. However, it was plain that there was only one strong side in this case, and that side was the Major's. The station master banished his annoying manner, and became pleasant and even half apologetic. This made a good opening for a compromise, and the Major made a concession. He said he would give up the engaged stateroom, but he must have a stateroom. After a deal of ransacking, one was found whose owner was persuadable. He exchanged it for our section, and we got away at last. The conductor called on us in the evening. It was kind and courteous and obliging, and we had a long talk and got to be good friends. He said he wished the public would make trouble oftener. It would have a good effect. He said that the railroads could not be expected to do their whole duty by the traveler unless the traveler would take some interest in the matter himself. I hoped that we were done reforming for the trip now. But it was not so. In the hotel car, in the morning, the Major called for broiled chicken. The waiter said, "It is not in the bill of fare, sir. We do not serve anything but what is in the bill." "That gentleman yonder is eating a broiled chicken." "Yes, but that is different. He is one of the superintendents of the road." "Then all the more I must have broiled chicken. I do not like these discriminations. Please hurry, bring me a broiled chicken." The waiter brought the steward, who explained in a low and polite voice that the thing was impossible. It was against the rule, and the rule was rigid. "Very well, then, you must either apply it impartially or break it impartially. You must take that gentleman's chicken away from him, or bring me one." The steward was puzzled and did not quite know what to do, and began an incoherent argument, and the conductor came along just then and asked what the difficulty was. The steward explained that here was a gentleman who was insisting on having a chicken, while it was dead against the rule and not in the bill. The conductor said, "Stick by your rules. You haven't any option." "Wait a moment. Is this the gentleman?" He laughed and said, "Never mind your rules. It's my advice and sound. Give him anything he wants. Don't get him started on his rights. Give him whatever he asks for, and if you haven't got it, stop the train and get it." The Major ate the chicken, but said he did it from a sense of duty and to establish principle, for he did not like chicken. I missed the fare, it is true, but I picked up some diplomatic tricks, which I and the reader may find handy and useful as we go along. Well, that's sort of the really sort of thing. Because, yeah, it's better to address the people and learn some and help them learn some lessons than it is to go around getting people fired and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know, people tend not to have careers nowadays. They have jobs for some time and switch to another job and that sort of thing. But also this thing is like, well, if someone has reserved something, it's not discrimination. And if it's not a right to such and such people in their position, again, why are you fussing that somebody has set forward a privilege for themselves that's not universally divided? That's, just how things work.